Committee meeting on Tuesday, the 29th of March at 2025 at 7 p.m. The first item on the agenda is to ratify the appointment of chairman, which is Councillor Henwood, and vice chairman, Councillor Mockford, as agreed at the annual council meeting on May 14th, 2025. Can I have verbal agreement to that ratification? Yes. Thank you very much. Now, due to an absence from Councillor Mockford, we will now have to appoint a temporary vice chairman. So I would like to nominate Councillor Wood. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Eaves. Apparently, we have to vote electronically. So everybody, if it comes up on your screen, I don't quite know why it has to be. Yes, okay, electronically, please. Okay, that appears to be unanimous. Councillor Wood, if you'd like to come and join me. Thank you very much. He'll remember. Okay.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to receive apologies for absence, and I have apologies from Councillor Mockford, Councillor Cherry, and Councillor Marsh. Are there any other apologies that have been notified? All right. Number 3 is to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Do I have any declarations of interest? Okay, thank you very much. Item number 4, to be agreed by general affirmation the minutes of the meeting held on November 19, 2024. Do I have general affirmation? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item number 5, to consider any items that the chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. So we'll go straight on to number 6, which is our item on gambling licensing policy review, and it is a review. So I'll ask Mr. Bryan to please introduce this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this report in front of the committee this evening is to seek the views on the content of the Draft Gambling Act licensing policy statement, which is attached to Appendix 1. This is prior to consultation with stakeholders and public within the month of August 2025. If there are significant amendments required following the consultation, these will be reviewed by this committee before it's presented to the Council. Now, the Gambling Act 2005 requires licensing authorities to review their policy every 3 years. Members will recall that the policy was reviewed 2 years ago, and it's now due for a further review. It's been reviewed by the licensing team, and although there are no changes, the Gambling Commission advice is that the readoption of the policy statement must be subject to consultation and adoption by the Council. Hence this process. The recommendation on the report is that the committee are recommended to endorse the draft policy statement at Appendix 1 ahead of consultation with stakeholders and the public. It's section 349 of the Gambling Act, which requires the licensing authority to publish its statement of licensing policy every 3 years. The statement is not intended to limit gambling establishments, but is intended to set out how the Council applies the Act to protect the public in relation to the 3 licensing objectives set out in the Gambling Act. In accordance, the policy has been reviewed. The details of the interested parties that the consultation will be circulated to is set out within the report. The policy, as I stated, has been reviewed in accordance with the regulatory and legislative changes and statutory advice. Following the review, there's no proposed changes to the current policy statement. The number of premises that are currently licensed by the Council is set out within the report. And the committee will be aware that there are aspects of the Gambling Act which are being reviewed by the government, but there's no date for any changes which would affect this revised policy. If there are any legislative changes announced by the government as a result of the consultation, then the policy will be revisited and looked for readoption. The next steps are, as stated, Council is required to consult on the draft policy. Due to the summer period, it's proposed that the public consultation will be for 8 weeks. And following agreement by the committee, it's proposed the consultation will start on the 5th of August. The policy statement is produced in accordance with the provisions of the Gambling Act, which places a duty on the council to carry out its licensing functions in respect of licensing, inspection and enforcement of such premises, and failure for the council to review their policy could leave us open to legal challenge. That's the report in front of the members this evening in respect of the gambling policy.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Now, committee, are there any comments or any questions? Councillor Kenny?
Have you got any data on breaches that you have to deal with and occasions upon which you have to intervene?
Yes, well, certainly, Councillor. We, as a matter of course, we conduct compliance checks on all the betting shops within Mid Sussex once a year. Also, the 2 adult gaming centres and the premises which have gaming machines in them, the licensed premises. They're also subject of compliance checks when we conduct our licensing checks. I'm pleased to say that none of the compliance checks have raised any concerns. If there were concerns, we would first of all raise it with the operating company, and we also advise the Gambling Commission of the issues that we would find.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments to be made? Councillor Eaves.
Thank you, Chair. Could I ask Mr. Bryant, I went to Margate recently and I'm walking along the seafront and there's premises after premises of gaming, of machines, basically, these one-armed bandit places. Could we stop that happening here? What powers would you have? Thank you.
It would depend on the type of premises, because there are adult gaming centres which are restricted to customers who are over 18, and there are strict age restrictions with regard to those. The premises that you appear to allude to are what's called unlicensed gaming centres. It's the type of centres where children go in and you've got the push penny or push 2 tuppenny or push 5p type machines. It's set out in the policy what our approach would be as a council for those applications. In respect to the policy, it also sets out our position in respect of, although we don't have any, casinos, racecourses and other similar establishments. So if any establishment was to come to the council wanting to open that type of venue, then they would know what our stance would be in respect of it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Kenny?
Yeah, another question. I think we've probably all seen in the press stories about certain parts of the country, usually ones where there's a lot of social deprivation, where fixed odds machines cause quite a lot of problems and there's gambling addiction. I wonder, do you have any either contacts with charities who deal with the outfall of that, or any information about anyone in Mid Sussex who's experiencing those sorts of difficulties?
Relative charities are contacted as part of the consultation process, and as part of our compliance checks, we ensure that all the betting premises and the adult gaming centres have ample leaflets relating to problem gambling, which are available to people using those establishments. And the leaflets are not just on general display, they're also located in places where people can select them without drawing attention to themselves. And that's one of the items, one of the areas which we look very closely at when we're doing our compliance checks to make sure that the establishments are compliant with their social responsibilities in those respects.
Okay, thank you. Councillor DeBell.
Yeah, I'm right in thinking that the sort of things that we were just looking at are sort of cash penny, aren't they? Shoved halfpenny and all that sort of thing, and they're not really classified as gambling, are they? I don't believe it. It's something that is put together for people to actually go and squander some funds on, but it's not particularly a gambling establishment, is it? Am I right in that, John?
There is gambling involved. In fact, it's within the policy, they're regarded as family entertainment centres, is the expression. And it sets out how we would look at these types of establishments. They contain, in essence, what's called category D machines, which children are allowed to play. Sometimes category C machines, but they have to be in a certain area, a different area of the premises. For example, if you go onto Brighton Pier, in the centre of the pier, there's family entertainment centres. But you'll find that the category C machines are separated, and there's an age restriction in respect of them.
Thanks, John.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions from the committee? Okay, well, if we can turn to page 7, where the recommendations are listed for the gambling licensing policy review. So if you would please register electronically your vote on whether we accept this review of the policy. Okay, that's unanimous approval of the policy. Thank you very much. Are you voting?
I will be.
Oh, okay. It will still be unanimous, I take it.
Yes, I'm not going to.
Good. Okay, but it takes the number up to 8. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, committee. Now, to the next, actually, street trading policy, which is a new policy. So I will ask Mr. Bryan to introduce this, please, and elaborate if necessary. Thank you.
Chair, thank you, members. This report in front of the committee is in respect of a new street trading policy. The purpose of the report is to seek your views on the draft policy, Appendix 1, prior to public consultation, which again we're looking to do from the 5th of August. And if there are significant amendments required following the consultation, these will be reviewed by this committee before it's presented to council. Now, the policy has been developed, as it states in the report, to harmonise the approach to street trading and to assist the licensing authority, current and potential licence holders and the public in understanding how the street trading licence regime will be administered. The background of the report sets out what street trading is and the fact that it was back in 2001 that the council resolved that Schedule 4 of the Act should apply in certain areas. Because it was such a long time ago, I do not know what the rationale was at the time for choosing these particular streets. However, the members will see that there is a licensed street which is in East Grinstead, which is treated slightly differently. I believe Railway Approach is where the East Grinstead market historically used to be held. Obviously, it isn't held there anymore. There are a number of prohibited streets where street trading would not be allowed, full stop. And then we have within the district currently only 16 consent streets, where if someone wants to trade in one of those streets, they have to receive consent from the licensing authority in the council to trade. That obviously means that the council can regulate compliance and enforcement in those 16 streets, but there's no legal basis for us to enforce or control licensing requirements for street trade in any other streets within the district. Now, there's obviously since 2001 been significant changes to the local area, but no review of street trading designations or in the way that street trading is actually administered within the district. There's no policy setting out the council's approach, and given that the current resolutions were passed over 20 years ago, it's felt this is an opportune time to review the current practice. Now, street trading would balance the right of an applicant to make an application under the Act to trade within the district, have the application considered on its own merits, against the right of people living in the district not to be disturbed by the trading activity, and also the rights of established businesses to continue trading, with the aim of continuing to create a vibrant local community. Now, when granting or renewing a consent, we may attach any reasonable conditions, such as trading hours, the appearance of the unit, arrangements for waste disposal, etc. And we can also at any time vary the conditions attached to a consent. There is no right of appeal against any council decision made in regard of a street trading consent, and the consent cannot be granted for longer than 12 months. As I said, at the moment, the council has no control over the streets that are not designated as a consent street or a prohibited street. And this, frankly, has resulted in the licensing team being ineffective in responding to complaints associated with trading in areas where no provisions exist. Currently, traders can set up operations in most locations with minimal controls. The only control would be preventing an obstruction to the highway, which would be dealt with by the highways. And it can lead to confusion and uncertainty into which areas are regulated. It's proposed that the extension of the street trading consent scheme would enable better regulation of standards across the whole district. All traders were required to obtain prior consent and also meet defined conditions before trading. It's clear that since the pandemic, street trading has increased. The policy is designed to give greater clarity to the standards expected of all street traders operating, and that's from food vans to ice cream vans, but without causing undue inflexibility as to where trading may occur. It's proposed the policy will apply to all council land other than that which is contracted within the Green Spaces contract. And extending the scheme would provide clarity to existing and prospective traders about where conditions apply. Set out in the report is the current designations in neighbouring authorities. Now, it's believed that the scheme will provide the following benefits. It will provide protection to existing traders and security to consent holders, as a new trader will have to apply to the council for permission to trade. We have had complaints, for example, on Victoria Industrial Estate, where there are a number of food vans where existing traders or established traders have had rival units turn up and situate themselves next to them, perhaps when they've been away on holiday and taken over their pitch. They've made complaints to the licensing team, but because it's not a consent street and we don't regulate street trading, unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do to control the street trading within those areas. We've also had examples of complaints of ice cream vans outside schools. And the street trading policy would ensure that ice cream vans can continue to trade. However, they wouldn't be allowed to park up outside schools, which would probably annoy some 5- and 6-year-olds, but probably please some of their parents. Now, the consultation process is set out in the policy. It's a process where local representations will be considered. The parish and town councils will be consulted, as will members. Traders will be regulated to protect the public across the district, for example, in terms of their waste disposal, and more importantly, their food hygiene ratings, because currently, with no control over street trading, we potentially can have traders trading who either aren't registered as a food business, which obviously has clear public safety implications, or have a very low food hygiene rating. And so we would be looking at traders having a higher rating in order for them to trade within the district. It's believed that higher quality street trading concessions in the right location will enhance the local environment. It will open up areas. It will remain relevant to reflect redevelopment. It gives more regulation on the obstruction and any damage to the highway caused by units. It ensures the safety of people using the units. It also recognises the importance of businesses to the local economy and the character of the area. Members will be quite aware that a lot of the outlying villages have a number of mobile units which visit them at various times during the week, which are, I think, and feel quite a benefit to local communities. It gives, especially residents who have their mobility restricted, obviously opportunities in respect of that. However, the policy isn't intended to restrict that, but what it's intended to do is make sure that those operators are safe and have got adequate food safety ratings for the residents. Obviously, when granting or renewing a street trading consent, the council may attach such condition as we consider necessary. There are standard conditions which are attached at Appendix 2, but if there's particular conditions which may be required in respect of a particular unit, then we can add conditions in respect of that to make it more appropriate. The next steps would be that we would consult on the policy. We would consult for 8 weeks due to the summer holidays, and subject to consultation, it would be recommended to the council for adoption on the 10th of December, unless there are substantial comments arising from the consultation, at which point the policy be reconsidered by this committee on the 18th of November. There are 2 strands to the legislation. One is the policy as one strand. The Act sets out a certain mechanism for streets to be designated. If the policy is consulted on and there's no major issues, then the council licensing team needs to publish the intention to nominate all the streets as consent streets. There's a further 28-day consultation period, and then the council then gives notice that they're adopting the consent streets. There are other options which are considered. One is to make no change to the current situation. That leaves us with the current status quo, which members may consider isn't probably satisfactory in any respect. We could resolve to designate the streets on an ad hoc basis. The potential impact of that is moving traders onto non-designated streets, and there is a cost implication when more streets are designated. So we could be in a position of coming back in a couple of years' time to designate more streets because issues have been moved to different areas. Obviously, if we adopt a policy in respect to street trading, designating all streets across the district as consent streets, then there is a continuity over the way that street trading will be dealt with across the entire district. And that's a report in front of the committee tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. When I first read the report, I did have a query, Mr. Bryan, on Appendix 3, which were the charges. Just if you could sort of clarify.
Yes, certainly, Chair. In Appendix 3, the charges are set out. The daily fee is if a trader just wished to trade for 1 day. Ideally, we would be looking at consents being issued for a year, but that may well necessarily restrict some traders or deter some traders who, in some respects, just want to test the water. That's why we have a weekly fee if a trader just wants to trade for 7 days, because sometimes they may want to see how whether or not there's a demand for their product. There's a monthly fee, which is probably envisaged in essence around Christmas time for traders who want to trade up to Christmas. I can't imagine that someone who sells Christmas trees would want an annual consent, and that's why we have monthly. The reason being is to try and give some flexibility to traders who may not want to the requirement to trade in a particular area for a whole year.
Thank you very much. Okay, now it is open to the committee if you have any questions to put forward. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bryant, for the very comprehensive report you've just given us, but also the documentation you provided. I'm not sure I've understood this correctly, but perhaps I could just suggest then that the proposal is really that the whole of the area, the whole of the district, sorry, is designated as consent streets. And then there will be applications from traders to trade in particular areas at particular times?
Yes, in essence, the policy is saying that the entire district, streets in the entire district, other than the current prohibited streets,
Yeah.
because we don't propose to change those, would all be consent streets, and then traders would come to us to get the consent when they particularly want to trade within that particular street or area.
I mean, I may be wrong, but it strikes me that this could mean an awful lot of extra work for you and your team.
Potentially. However, in some respects, you have to look at the amount of work and the benefit that it will bring to the residents in respect of improvement to street trading, to actually perhaps ignoring it and leaving it as the status quo. Although it will mean more work, I think it's probably work which needs to be done in the round.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Councillor de Bell?
Thank you. I don't have to press that again, do I? Does do the same rules apply to arcades, John? I mean, I know that up in London, for instance, around there are various arcades that are filled all the time for traders, and I was wondering if the same street trading rules apply for arcades.
It's difficult for me to give a definitive answer.
I understand.
Because of not knowing the general type of trading going on there and the circumstances. So, for example, markets which are held within the district wouldn't be included within the street trading policy. So the markets up at East Grinstead, the markets down held at Burgess Hill, are not included within the policy. We're looking at we don't have any arcades of that nature. If any were to start, then that's something that we would look at dependent on the type of trading that's going on.
That's right. I was wondering if this had been considered. I mean, up in the Opera District, of course, in London, there is a fabulous arcade up there, and it's just I was thinking that it might apply to a type of building. It might be quite different, and there's actually been suggestions that one of the big shops in East Grinstead that closed might actually become a trading arcade. It was actually suggested to me by one of our councillors a few years ago.
My initial thoughts would be that if it's within the shop, then it wouldn't be regarded as street trading because it's not on the street.
That's what I thought. Thanks, John.
Thank you, thank you. Councillor Eaves?
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask Mr Bryant about ice cream vans? Just out of curiosity, how does this work for them now? Because I would have thought they move around quite freely in and out of non-nominated streets. So do they all just pay £189 a year, or how does that work? Thank you.
At the moment, they trade with no restrictions. Generally, ice cream vans will be within the local neighbourhoods. I've yet to see any in places like South Road, stopped in South Road or Sussex Road. I'm sure they may well do. I haven't seen any while I've been out, or in the similar consent streets which are nominated. But at the moment, they trade freely throughout, which then can cause issues within neighbourhoods. Not necessarily with the van itself, but I know the Environmental Protection Team get complaints about the chimes when they chime for far too long. We've also had complaints from rival ice cream vans traders who complain that other people are coming into their area. The whole purpose of the policy, though, isn't to restrict trade and restrict choice, but it's to make sure that the people who are trading are regulated and are safe and responsible.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny?
Yes, thanks very much, Mr Bryant. Question about scale, because I can't quite get my roughly speaking, and I'm not asking you to come up with the exact number, roughly speaking, how many street traders do we have in the Mid Sussex area? And in particular, of those, how many at the moment are enjoying that privilege without, because that may influence their response to the proposals?
Currently, we have 2 traders who have consents. They're both based up in Copthorne. One is a food establishment in the Copthorne lay-by, which operates from Monday to Saturday. There's one other establishment which operates from the same lay-by, but they sell food, fruit and veg and flowers on a Saturday. That we don't allow them to trade during the week because of the amount of traffic used in those particular lay-bys. Of the other number of traders, I can't give a definitive figure, but my ballpark figure would be between 15 to 20 other traders that I'm aware of throughout the whole district.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question. Ice cream vans, are they considered street traders? And if so, do they pay the 189 fee for annual?
Obviously, it'd be entirely up to the trader whether they want to pay for an annual fee or whether they want to pay it monthly. But yes, they are regarded as street traders, because street trading does include ice cream vans.
Okay, thank you. Yes, they probably wouldn't want 12 months. Correct that, maybe just 6 months. Councillor Wood.
Yeah, given that we've had streets where trading is not allowed, and that decision was made quite a long time ago, are there any streets now that we would be hesitant about allowing such trade?
There may be 1 or 2 streets where we would look closely at the application, dependent on the availability of space and traffic flow.
Yeah.
That would form part of our consideration of any application for a consent. Just because someone is an area is a consent street, it may well be that particular trader isn't suitable for that particular area. So, for want of a better expression, it would be horses for courses. Okay. So rather than totally restrict and prohibit in other streets, it would be a case of assessing the application in respect to the location. The streets which are prohibited streets are ones where, in essence, it would probably be rather dangerous to have street trading taking place there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you very much. Well, that takes us up to looking at the recommendation, which is on page 49. And if I could please ask you to vote on the recommendation on page 49, please. Okay, thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you, committee. Let's move on to the last item, which is questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2. I have none, so I think that means our committee meeting is ceased at 7:35. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.